Okay, hi and welcome back. Today I'm doing another review for Tai Lopez's course, The 67 Steps. Today is day 14 and the title of the course is The Shaolin Monk and Touching an Electric Fence. Basically what Tai is talking about in this video is about having personal responsibility and being prepared for things that could happen in your life that could shock you if you're not prepared for them. So it's this idea of, you're not to blame for everything that happens to you in life because some things are completely random and by accident, but you are to blame for the things that happen to you that you're not prepared for, that you could have and you should have been prepared for if you had more awareness. So I think that, most people don't have this awareness, and that's what really costs them. And so he kind of gives an example of this book. He's reading about this World War II athlete who was an Olympic athlete and then went into the army. And this was actually made into a movie recently. I watched it as well. I think Angelina Jolie directs this movie, but it's a great movie because this guy basically, goes into war, and then his ship his plane gets shot down. He gets stranded at sea for 40 days, getting shot at by Japanese planes. Then after that, he gets rescued, but he gets rescued by the Japanese. So he gets stuck in a prisoner of war camp for I think 2 years or something. Pretty horrendous. And basically, a lot of people that went through what he did, they didn't make it, they didn't survive. They died. Either they died on impact from the plane crashing into the sea, or they weren't strong enough swimmers, or all kinds of things. So this guy that survived, he basically obviously had a lot of fitness because he was an Olympic level athlete. So that physical level of fitness and conditioning is basically what gave him the odds, the advantage, and that's why he survived. His mentality, I guess, was also important. He was thinking, I have to always be thinking only about living and not about dying, because it's so easy to think about dying and give up. There's another really good book, I think, written by one of the guys in a war camp in the World War II, a Jewish guy, and I think he had the same outlook, always thinking about the best outlook about the end game. So their end game is optimistic, but they take a lot of preparation and a lot of steps to be prepared for life. So the day-to-day kind of things, they're always looking for what can go wrong, how to prepare for those, and making sure that they're prepared, and just having that awareness to know what to prepare for by assessing your risks. So I think this example, this guy, he was super prepared compared to his buddies. So he read these army manuals, how you actually fight off sharks in the water, and he simulated all that. And that actually came super handy when he ended up stranded at sea and having to actually fight these sharks. And some of his buddies didn't make it because they didn't know what to do. So it's that level of preparation that kind of sets these people apart, who go through extraordinary hardship. Most of us will never have to go through anything like that. So you might think, I don't need that kind of preparation, but there's more standard things you should think about preparing for. So Tai talks about that a little bit. Obviously, there's some things you can't ever prepare for. Like, there's no way the dinosaurs could have prepared for the asteroid hitting them and wiping them out. That kind of extreme event, it's not even worth really thinking about. And if you look at it on a scale of extreme pessimism at one end, preparing for everything, versus being totally optimistic and being unprepared and just trusting have faith in everything that will go well for you. Both of those kind of extremes are not balanced and not the best way to look at it. So the way kind of Tai explains it is that you want to be optimistic in your end game mindset of where you're going to be, where you're going to end up, and believe in that bigger dream, and obviously persevering towards that goal. But in the day-to-day thing, you're thinking, what can go wrong and how can I prepare for it? Because it's easy to prepare for something when it's easy. So, for example, it gives, you can't save money when you're broke because you haven't got it to save. So you shouldn't wait until you're broke. You should be saving right now when you have some money. You can't lift weights when you're old because it's too heavy and you've waited too long and your body's atrophied and it's breaking down. So you want to be lifting weights when you're young and you get into that habit and that routine. One I thought of was, you can't buy insurance when you get cancer or you have an accident. No one's going to give you insurance. No one's going to pay for your medical bills. It's something you should have set up before you got the accident, and something you can foresee to be prepared for when it's easy. Because when it's hard, there's no way you can do it. I guess one example I really like is this, you can't find a new job or make money when a recession hits if you don't have the skills and the education and the connections, and you haven't done that in advance. It's too late when, you lose your job or your company lays off a bunch of people to try and upskill yourself, to try and build networks, to try and, do all these things that take time because you don't have that time. You need a job now, and you could have got that if you'd been prepared. I think I was quite lucky. I always moved around companies and moved up quite quickly. But definitely I could have been a lot more prepared in my career. Similarly, you don't want to wait until if you're in business yourself, you don't want to wait until your client decides to use someone else You want to make sure you have a really good sales pipeline, and you always have clients coming in, so you don't ever have to stress about this yo-yo cycle of getting clients and finishing clients. And a lot of small business owners and online entrepreneurs struggle with this kind of stuff. So you can be prepared for this if you have more awareness and you kind of look at it from a higher level, detach yourself from your day-to-day stuff, look at the problems, and work out, okay, what can I really prepare for? What can I not prepare for? What should I just stop worrying about that, because there's nothing I can do about it. Another example he gives is that I think he says most health issues come from storing belly fat and visceral fat. So you can see this is going to happen if you have a bad pattern, bad diet, bad exercise habits, and you've got about 20 years to prepare before something actually hits you. But if you just keep adding to this belly fat and storing some healthy food in your body over time, that's going to lead you to getting something serious. And once you get something serious, it's 10 times harder to tackle it. So you've got all this time to solve the puzzle before it actually becomes something that hits you and it's very difficult to recover from. And basically the idea is, don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. So, take up healthy habits, work out a routine. I've talked about this in a few videos. You need to have a routine for those kind of things to make sure they get done. Because if you leave it to chance, they're not going to get done. Something's going to disrupt you. Your kid, your wife, your job, your boss is all going to get more important than something else unless you have a clear time and a clear routine for it. And once you get into a routine, you start to really build up that habit, and it becomes something that's just automatic and addictive. For me, like, I do my yoga and meditation every day. It's just something I do every day without thinking about it. And if there's like a reason why I get disrupted, maybe one day I'm traveling in the morning really early, then I find myself, doing it late at night before I go to bed, just because I have to get that kind of fix. So in a way, as long as it's a healthy habit, it's okay if it's a little bit addictive. But it just becomes like something that you need for physical. You need that physical exercise for peak performance. If I don't get that workout, I always feel it the next day or in a few days. I won't feel as good if I'm not staying active. So you need to kind of be aware of what are the things that could hit you. It could be you need better clients, more clients, so you're not dependent on one client. If you run a business, you should start saving money before you actually need to draw on it, because when you're broke, you can't save money. It's impossible. I guess some of this stuff seems very common sense, but our brains are really wired for the short term. We don't kind of have this awareness for the longer term of things that could happen down the road, and so we're not as well prepared as we should be. So, it's good. It's good common sense. I did like a lot of what he said, and definitely, check that film out. That's quite a crazy story. That the guy who got captured, worth looking at, and makes you realize that our problems are kind of insignificant, in comparison. I think the other thing he recommends is going into an old people's home and just walking in and talking to people and understanding their stories. So you can kind of learn from other people's experiences, the mistakes they made, the lessons they learned, and you don't necessarily need to make those mistakes yourself. So he's just talking to old people once every 3 months, go walk into an old people's home and just talk to people and see what kind of stories they have. So it's difficult, I guess, if you're traveling a lot to find out where these places are. But in the meantime, I'll keep reading, and I'll be back again with another review tomorrow from Tai Lopez's course. So see you soon.